You are listening to the Rewards Canada podcast.
Hello, and welcome to episode 110 of the Rewards Canada podcast. In this episode, we'll discuss how credit cards rank based on anytime, any travel reward options. This is a new feature we just recently released on the Rewards Canada site, which we'll link to on our podcast page at rewardscanada.ca/podcast. That way you can see the entire rankings in detail, as here in this episode, we'll only look at some of the top cards for the various any travel, anytime options, and also highlight some popular cards that don't do as good a job in this category. Before we get into the actual rankings, I'll go over the various options of any travel, anytime credit card rewards so that you know the differences between them. With any travel at any time, we are referring to the ability to book any type of travel, whether that's flights, hotels, car rentals, vacation packages, and so on, not just flights. Several programs also have flight reward charts, which tend to be marketed as any flight at any time, but it's best not to confuse those with any travel at any time, as they do not work for hotels, car rentals, etc. There are two primary any travel, anytime reward redemption methods that are found with Canadian credit card rewards. The first is booking any travel on your own, and this is what we consider as the true any travel, anytime rewards option, since you have complete control of your travel bookings. It is the most flexible of them all, and with this option, you actually don't even have to have the points at the time of booking. You basically redeem your points after the travel charge posts to your account. The time period you get to redeem ranges from 90 days to upwards of 12 months after posting the charge. So this means you can be on vacation, book a spur-of-the-moment flight, train ride, you name it, and then you can redeem your points towards the charge when you get back home. And with some of those cards, like I said, up to a year after you can do so. So you can continue to fund your previous travels if you want with your points. The second option is booking any travel via the credit card rewards travel service. So this is a little less flexible because with this option, number one, you have to have the points on hand at the time of booking. Now, it doesn't have to be your full amount of points. A lot of these programs allow you to do partial redemptions, but you have to have those points at the time of booking. Afterwards, you can't redeem your points towards that charge. I mean, you could technically as a cash back option, but with a lot of these cards, the cash back option is lower. So this one, basically what you do is you have to book through the credit card rewards travel service. So you're saying this is probably a little bit less flexible because a lot of these companies use companies like Expedia as their back-end booking engine, and you can't book travel, say, to Cuba. There may not be options for some low-cost airlines. It's just a little less flexible than that option of you going out and booking with whomever you want at any time. This, it puts a little more restrictions on there, but it's still extremely flexible compared to some other option. And then technically there's a third option, which I already mentioned earlier in this podcast, and that's your any flight at any time reward chart options. So 3 Canadian card issuers also offer a fixed chart redemption option for flight bookings. These are referred to, as I mentioned, like as any flight, anytime rewards, and they're only applicable to airline tickets. So American Express membership rewards has their fixed points for travel, RBC Avion rewards has their Avion air travel redemption schedule, and CIBC rewards has their Aventura airline rewards chart. These are basically your traditional frequent flyer chart type things where you have a set amount of points for flying within a region or from one region to another. The amount of points depends on those regions, and they cover a certain amount of ticket fare, not including taxes and fees. And yeah, I'll go into more details about those after. But so those are basically your 3 types of any travel, anytime. Like I said, there's only 2 that are considered any travel at any time options. So first, we'll look at credit cards ranked booking any travel on your own. So these are the most flexible type of bookings, as I mentioned. And the first thing you'll notice, the first 3 cards listed in our rankings are the same 3 cards that we consider points earning machines. Now, I'll put links below to our article on selecting the right points earning machine for you and basically what they are. And basically what these cards are ones that rack up a lot of points on your everyday spending. So the card we have listed as number 1 for booking any travel on your own is the Scotiabank Gold American Express card. And the reason why is that the card earns anywhere from 1 to 6 points per dollar spent. To be exact, it's 1, 3, 5, and 6 points per dollar spent on your everyday spending. The 6 points per dollar is at Sobeys grocery stores and Empire grocery stores, those type of places. 5 times points on other groceries and dining, and then the list goes on. And when you redeem points via Scene Plus, You can redeem for any travel at any time when you have one of the Scotia credit cards, so you can book travel with whomever you want. The redemption rate works out to a 1 to 6% return on your 1 to 6 points per dollar earning. So that is unmatched. That 6% is the highest available in Canada as your maximum possible return on spending. And then the 1% on the base earn rate is pretty equal to a lot of cards. There's some that have higher, and that's what I'm going to stress. Is that when it comes to all these cards, you have to look at your own individual spending and see what works better for you. Some of you may do better off with a card that has a higher base earn rate than the accelerated earn rates. If you're not buying, say, a lot of groceries or a lot of dining, those type of things, your higher base earn rate cards may do better for you. So this is just one more step, one more guide in helping you select the right card. You have to look at a lot more options than just this. But this really does show you which cards do any travel at any time the best. So next up, in second spot, is the American Express Cobalt card. This card earns 1 to 5 points per dollar, and the rate of returns for any travel anytime is 1 to 5%. So very similar to the Scotia Gold Amex. They're very comparable. That the Scotia Gold Amex gives you that 1 extra percent per dollar at the Empire grocery stores. Otherwise, they're pretty closely matched here. But again, here it comes down to individual spending. The Cobalt card has a 2 times accelerator on travel, which the Scotiabank card does not. So those are things you have to look at. So that's your number 2 card, and that's of course this another points earning machine. And then rounding out the top 3 is the mbna Rewards World Elite MasterCard. So this card technically doesn't do any travel at any time. In this case, you have to book the travel and then use their cashback redemption option. So this card, what it does is it earns 1 to 5.5 points per dollar, but because you're using the cashback option, you're only getting 0.83 cents per point as a return. So that means your 1 point per dollar is a 0.83% return, and the up to 5.5 points per dollar spent is a 4.57% return. So here you can see, again, so the maximum possible return is very large. In fact, it's like the third best after the Scotiabank Gold American Express card and American Express Cobalt card. At 4.5%, it's great. You can get more in the next section, though, with the mbna Rewards with its booking via its own credit card agency. So we'll talk about that more. But again, so this comes down to your spending habits. So you're going to have a lower base earn rate slightly than the Cobalt card or the Gold American Express card from Scotiabank. But again, if you average out your spending here, compared to other cards, there's other cards that have 1% or more, but they don't have that maximum return of 4.5%. So you're going to have to look at your spending and average it out and see what does better for you. So the mbna Rewards World Elite, a lot of people don't talk about it as an any travel at any time card where you book yourself, but it can do really well, especially if you focus your spending on this card in those 5 times points categories. Now, I said it earns up to 5.5, and that's because it gets a 10% bonus every year on your spending, up to an extra 15,000 points. So you're depending how much you spend on the card, you're going to be earning between 5 and 5.5 points in those accelerated categories, which is that 4.57 up to a 4.57% return. So excellent returns still for any travel at any time. In fourth spot is the Desjardins Odyssey Visa Infinite Privilege card, another card that's not talked about very much. This is the ultra premium card from Desjardins. Now it has a strong base earn rate of 1.75%. So that's one of the highest, in fact, in terms of travel cards. There's a couple that do a little bit better, but this is definitely one of the highest. But it also has a 4% accelerated earn rate that you can max out with it. So overall, this card can do quite well for you, but it is an ultra premium card, so it has higher annual fees. But again, like that 4% doesn't match the 4.57 on the mbna or the 5% or the 6%, but it does have that strong base earn rate. But that's 4%. Gets it into fourth spot because we are ranking these based on the highest accelerated earn rate value you can get. And rounding out the top 5 is the CIBC Aventura Visa Infinite Privilege card. This card earns 1.25 to 3 points per dollar spent, and when you redeem it for a special redemption option that they have called Shopping with Points for Travel, you can get 1.25 cents per point, which means it'll give you a 1.56% to 3.75% return. So that 3.75% return places this card into fifth spot. But I do want to heed a word of caution here. This shopping with points for travel option is very limited in your window to redeem. So what it is that when you book any travel at any time on this card, you have to redeem the points while the charge is pending. So if it posts as an actual transaction, you won't be able to redeem your points at this rate for it. You'll have to use their actual pay with points option, which is half that amount, 0.69 cents per point. So all those percentage rates drop to 0.8% to a high of 1.87%, which drops this card quite a bit down the list. So this is something you need to be aware of. But so if you do keep your eye on that transaction, that travel transaction, and as soon as it goes onto your account as pending, which can be immediately after you make the purchase, or it can take up to a couple days after your purchase, and then it'll stay pending for as little as a day to maybe a couple of days. So your window is probably 3 to 7 days where you can redeem your points at 1.25 cents per point for this card. And if you do that, then you're going to get that value of up to 3.75%. And of course, because we're ranking this on the highest possible maximum return for any travel at any time, this card fits into 5th place. And on the lower end of things, some of the cards that don't do so well in this true any travel at any time category, in 14th spot is the National Bank of Canada World Elite MasterCard. This is a 5 times points earning card, but its cashback redemption rate, because it only technically has a travel redemption option through their travel agency, so you have to use their cashback redemption rate, is very low. It only provides 0.4 cents per point. So it's 1, 2, and 5 points per dollar spent range from a 0.4% to as high as a 2% returns, but it's got the lowest base earn rate of 0.4% in this category. So that's something to be aware of. But again, once we get to the next section, when booking through credit card travel agencies, the card does get better. So we'll take a look at that shortly. And then some of Canada's most popular cards round out the bottom of the list. Like we ranked this list in 20 cards. And the last card we look at in the any travel at any time category, true any travel anytime, I should keep saying that because there's the 2 different options, is the RBC Avion Visa Infinite card. Same thing here. It doesn't have this true option. You have to use their cashback or pay with points option, and that only works out to 0.58 cents per point. So you're only getting a 0.58% return on the 1 points per dollar, and the card only earns a maximum of 1.25 points per dollar on travel purchases. So that's only a 0.73% return. So very low, not very competitive to all the other cards. So I just wanted to point that out, that some of these very popular cards, if you're looking for the absolute utmost in flexibility for travel, they're not very competitive to the rest of the cards on the list. Next up, we have credit cards ranked, where you're booking any travel via the credit card rewards travel service. So as mentioned before, this option, you need to have the points on hand. Now it can be a partial amount of points or full amount of points, but they're required at the time of a redemption to use those points at the best value. Otherwise, you have to go with some of these cards, you have to go with that cashback redemption option that we just discussed, where it's going to be a little less value. So like if you have say $300 worth of points and you're buying a $700 flight, and you can redeem those points right away when you're booking that flight for $300 off, and then charge the remaining $400 to your card via whichever credit card travel service you're using. So here, again, the number 1 card is the Scotiabank Gold American Express card. Again, because it has up to that 6% return. It's the same value here when you use Scene Plus Travel, which is powered by Expedia. So you can see already how this card has so much flexibility, because it allows you to go book any travel you want, but you can also book via Scene Plus Travel. Now, the benefit of booking via Scene Plus Travel is that you can earn more Scene Plus points on the cash portion that you're booking, not so much for flights, but for hotels and cars and stuff like that. So that's something to keep in mind. So again here, so 1 to 6% return, and that's why it's a number 1 card. But the rest of the rankings shift a little bit here. Here we have the mbna Rewards World Elite MasterCard jump into 2nd spot. Because now when you're booking through mbna Rewards, you get the full value of 1 cent per point, not the 0.83 that they had for cashback kind of options for your any travel anytime. So if you can book your travel through mbna Rewards, you're going to get 1% to 5.5% return on your spending, because of course it earns up to 5 points per dollar, and they give you that 10% bonus, which is 5.5 points is 5.5%. So that jumps into number 2. It bumps American Express Cobalt card down to number 3, just slightly lower at 1 to 5% because of its 1 to 5 points per dollar. Again, this is 1 cent per point redemption, and this is booking through Amex membership rewards, or Amex Travel, sorry, I should say, using your membership rewards points for booking via Amex Travel. And so they give you that option as well. Again, very flexible, just like the Scotiabank Gold American Express card. The big jump in this category is the National Bank of Canada World Elite MasterCard. So as I mentioned just in the previous section, it was in 14th spot because its cash back redemption rate for any travel at any time is very poor. But it has a 1 cent per point redemption rate when you book through their a la carte travel agency. So that means that 1, 2, and 5 points per dollar that you're earning on that card is 1, 2, and 5% return. So it's a 5% return at maximum. So that moves the card into 4th spot. And then another card that jumps into the top 5 just moves up a few spots from the previous category, which I didn't touch upon in the previous category. But in 5th spot, it's a TD First Class Travel Visa Infinite card because it offers up to 4.4% return. Because here, that card allows you to redeem points for any travel at any time. It has a lower redemption rate. Their in-house travel agency is Expedia for TD, and that's where you get the full value of the points, which is half a cent per point. And the card earns 2, 4, 6, and 8 points per dollar. Plus, it also gives a 10% bonus annually on your spending up to, I believe it's, somebody may have to correct me because I don't have it in front of me, it might be 10,000 points extra, bonus points per year they give you. So it earns up to 8.8 points per year, or per dollar spent, on the card. And at half a cent per point, it's a 4.4% return. And so those are your top 5 cards for booking travel through the credit card rewards travel agencies. Now you can go down the list, and again, so some of the weaker cards here again are RBC Avion because of their book any travel, and I'm going to make a highlight here. Book any travels like hotels, flights that aren't part of their reward chart, cruises and that. RBC gives you 1 cent per point here, so it's much better than the last redemption, the any travel anytime using a cashback redemption. But still, because the Avion Visa card only earns 1 point per dollar on all purchases, 1.25 on travel, it only gives you a maximum of 1.25% return. So 1 to 1.25. So it's honestly, it's in 20th spot again. But there is a trick here with this, is that you can also add to this your RBC Ion Plus Visa card, because the Ion Plus Visa card earns up to 3 points per dollar. Now, the Ion card on its own doesn't have the greatest redemption rate for travel, but because of its 3 points per dollar, it comes out slightly ahead of the Avion Visa Infinite card. You max out at 1.74% for any travel that's booked via the RBC Rewards travel agency. But when you combine the two cards, you can move points earned on the Ion Plus card over to the Visa Infinite card. And so you're going to get 1 cent per point instead of 0.58 cents per point. So that bumps it up to a 3% return maximum on these cards and a 1% minimum return. So if you have that combo of cards, you actually have the 7th best ranking, which is the same as CIBC Aventura Visa Infinite Privilege, maxes out at 3%. The Scotia Passport Visa Infinite maxes at 3%. Same with the Scotia American Express cards. So there's a whole bunch of cards that are all at the same, very same redemption rate, but we rank the Visa Infinite card and Ion Plus combo as 7th. So that's a look at the 2 any travel at any time redemption options from credit card rewards, because it is about any travel at any time. Yes, the one is less flexible if you have to book through the credit card rewards agency, but you get at least the options of different types of travel. Now, the third one that we touched upon earlier is the book any flight at any time. So there's only 3 cards that offer this, 3 card programs. You have American Express membership rewards with their fixed points for travel, RBC Avion Rewards with their Avion Air Travel redemption schedule, and then CIBC Rewards with their Aventura Airline Rewards chart. So these are only for flights, and like I said, these are fixed amounts of points that you use for a ticket, and those points are used towards the base fare. And it's up to a maximum amount per region. So we've worked out the calculations where, say, with the American Express membership rewards fixed points for travel, the maximum per point value you can get there is 2 cents per point. RBC Avion Rewards is 2.33 cents per point, and CIBC Aventura Rewards is 2.28 cents per point. So right there you may be thinking, oh, Avion Rewards is the best one for flights, but you have to be very careful with that. You can't just look at the value of the rewards in the reward chart. You have to look at the credit card earn rates. And unfortunately, I've seen quite a few websites make this mistake. They are mentioning that, oh, Avion has the best redemption schedule, when unfortunately you have to look at how you earn those points. When you're only earning 1 point per dollar versus another card that has 5 points per dollar, you multiply those two. So say, let me back up here. So say you have your 5 points per dollar in the American Express Cobalt card and you redeem at that 2 cents per point level, that works out to a 10% return. So you can get a maximum 10% return from Amex's fixed points for travel. With RBC Avion Rewards, you can earn 1 to 1.25 points per dollar with any of the Avion cards. And with that maximum value of 2.33 cents per point, your maximum possible return is only 2.91%. And again, that 1.25 points that say the Avion Infinite earns is only on travel. All other spending is 1 point per dollar. Whereas something like the Cobalt card, its 5 points is on groceries, dining, it has 3 points on streaming services, 2 points on travel. So the return is much better there, and you have to look at that earn to burn ratio. And so CIBC rewards, because the Aventura cards actually earn up to 3 points per dollar, can provide up to a 6.84% return. So you have fixed points for travel from Amex with a maximum 10% return. You have CIBC rewards Aventura Airline Rewards chart with a maximum 6.84% return. And then RBC Avion rewards with their Avion air travel redemption schedule only offering 2.91%, so much lower. But just like the last section, if you add in the Ion Plus card to your Avion card, you're now going to have a category earning 3 points per dollar. And since you can convert those 3 points from the Ion Plus to the Avion card, you multiply that by the 2.33 cents per point, and you basically have a 7% return. So it jumps ahead of the Aventura Airline chart when you combine those two cards. But it's only when you combine those two cards. If you only have your Avion Infinite, you're not going to get those returns. So that's something to be really aware of with these any flight at any time reward chart options. We've had them in our Rewards Canada clashes. Amex's membership rewards beat Avion, beat Aventura. Aventura beat Avion, but we haven't done the clash with the combination of cards. I mean, like you can tell right now, when you do the combo of cards, Avion rewards should come out ahead, but there's a bunch of numbers in there, so I'll have to double check that. But chances are it will beat out the Aventura card. But again, that's a 2-card combo. Some people don't want those 2 cards. Even as it's super easy, I mean, the Ion Plus card is only $4 a month to get. It easily pays for itself. You're boosting your value of your Avion Infinite points. So that's something to consider. And that's all she wrote for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for tuning in. Be sure to help to spread the word so we keep bringing you the best in loyalty rewards content in Canada. Share the podcast, hit the like button, leave a 5-star review on your favorite listening platform, and so on. Have yourselves a great day, and I'll talk to you next time. The Rewards Canada podcast is produced in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, with music produced by Regina's own TWKOP.